All right, Jake, amuse me.
All right. I suppose I better do an intro. Hello, welcome to another episode of OTMT with me, Jake.
And me, Surma.
We're getting better at that. And thanks to Shopify for letting us do this every now and then. Don't want to spoil some of the magic. This is the third episode we're recording in a row. We normally do two, but you went and split your episode into two.
I milked it.
I am not going to do that. I really hope I'm not. I don't think I've got that much content, but yeah, I'm having to sort of bring the happiness. I sort of force the happiness out right now because I'm actually in quite a bad mood because I moved house about a year ago, and so I've had to have the process of buying furniture, and I bought. I've got a little kitchen island.
Oh, look at you! You've climbed your way up the social ladder. You're now a kitchen island owner.
Yeah, that's. I'm doing all right.
That's a kitchen on a separate island in the Bahamas, right?
Yes, that's right. It's a tax haven. The kitchen island. That's why. And that took a lot of doing, mate. That took a lot of doing. It's the forms I had to fill in. But so I had to get some bar stools for the kitchen island. So I bought some instead.
Oh, the pain. Your struggles in life.
I know. Got some gas lift ones, because
gas lift.
You know what I mean? Like it's got the little lever and it goes.
Oh,
uppy downy.
Ah,
yeah?
Yes. Oh, I always wanted one that has like really a lot of pressure, so you can catapult yourself onto the couch.
So you just eject yourself out. Yeah, that would be good. These aren't like that. They come ready assembled, which is great for me because I am. Not
as in you don't have to pressurize them yourself.
No. I mean the whole unit. It's there's your bar stool. And it's like right, that's a usable bar stool. All I need to do now is just put it into the position. That's it. No assembly required.
Nice.
I guess is what I mean. Right, which is good because it's the kind of thing I'll mess up. And as I was taking the second of my bar stools downstairs, I discovered that this one was not ready assembled, or not properly readily assembled, as the bottom half of it detached itself. And this is the heavy part. This is the part that sits on the ground and keeps the whole thing balanced. Detached itself and started bouncing down my stairs, laying waste to my house. Creating a series of holes in the wall and floor and bannisters.
And that's where you regretted building your house made of glass.
It was, as soon as, because it's happening, because I was carrying the thing downstairs and all of a sudden it just got lighter and then there was a thud and I was like, oh, I know what's happened here. And then as I watched this thing go bang, 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 I'm like, time slows and it's like, well, there's nothing I could do about that.
You can really observe the misery happening in those moments, can't you?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm going to be really sad about this once I have time to feel feelings rather than just watching it. So I am, yeah. So, there's a bunch of emails.
That's not fun.
Well, whatever, hopefully.
Or you could just frame it and call it art.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just put a frame around it, sign it, date it, sell it. There we go. That pays for itself.
It's a subtle critique of social dynamics in the modern era.
It's my ode to this particular furniture company, which I won't name because I don't know. I might name them if the compensation process doesn't go through. But in the meantime, let's assume it's all going to be fine.
So,
should we talk about the web? Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh,
you talk so much. Can I at least ask the question if we should talk about the web? Come on, mate.
Should we? Should we talk about the web?
Let's talk about the web.
All right, let's talk about the web. I struggled for a topic, so always in that situation, stick to what you know. That's what I say. So I'm going to talk about view transitions.
Oh, I thought you were talking about checkered backgrounds.
That's the other thing I know about. But no, this time it's view transitions. But I want to talk about some of the upcoming features, like the things that have landed relatively recently and like the things that are just being talked about that might arrive at some point. Because, the view transitions have shipped in both Chrome and Safari. They're all hat now, but there's been a bunch of work happening in the background, adding like...
And how proud are you of that, though? That something that you worked on is in Safari. That doesn't happen.
I know, and it was a lot quicker than what happened with service workers, put it that way. So that's that is satisfying. No, it's actually really nice to see. It's a nice high level feature, so Safari tends to go for that kind of thing. But it was nice to see a in web standard speed, a fast turnaround on that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I'll quick recap. What are view transitions? I don't know. You give a bunch of elements view transition names in your CSS. You call document.startViewTransition, and the browser captures the current state, and everything with a view transition name is captured separately. Great, it's like little screenshots. Amazing. Then you change your DOM in whatever way you want, using a framework, not using a framework, whatever. And then the browser creates an animation from those old states to those new states. So yes, the old states screenshots. And this is good because you can animate something which isn't there anymore, which is kind of the biggest problem we set out to solve with this. Because if you're just changing between like two tabs, it's an accessibility nightmare, but it's also difficult implementation-wise to like keep both views around for a bit while you're animating from one to the other. So yeah, it solves that problem. They're just screenshots. There's no accessibility issues. Whereas the new states are live screenshots. They kind of work like bitmaps, but they're being constantly updated with the actual real DOM.
Oh.
And then, there's a default animation which animates the size and position of everything which has the same view transition name in both states. And it crossfades from the old screenshot to this new view. And that can all be customized. And that's a view transition. Ta-da!
Lovely.
But I want to talk about some of the new bits and the features in development. And view transitions, they're a very visual feature. So what better place to discuss it than on a podcast? So, use your imagination throughout, I suppose. All right. Entry and exit animations. So this is an older feature, but I think not many people seem to know about it who I talk to. So you've got these old and new states, like I mentioned. The old ones are screenshots, the new ones are live screenshots. And they both exist in this image pair pseudo element. Mm-hmm. You can use the only child pseudo selector, pseudo class, to match states where there is only one of those. So there's only an old state or there's only a new state.
Okay. But can you also know which it is?
Yes, because you've got view transition old, and then you pass in the name of the one you're targeting, the view transition name, and then at the end you just pop on only child, which means that there's only a new state.
That's nice.
And you can give it different animations in that case, which means you can create a different entry animation. So you could have a sidebar, but you can say, right, all right, but if the new state of the sidebar is the only child, then I'll slide it in from the right, assuming that's where the sidebar is. And that animation would only happen when it wasn't there in the previous state, it's there in the new state. So you create an entry animation. You can do the reverse for an exit animation. Yay.
Very nice.
So this next one I wanted to talk about, this is not just about view transitions, but it's definitely relevant. So in Safari, in particular, this is where I first noticed this, you can do some number of fingers on the trackpad swipe to go back and forward between pages. Have you seen this?
Yes.
I always turn this feature off.
I was just going to say, I turn it off immediately.
Yes. Well, some people don't. And it also happens on iOS as well.
Quick derailing. I was recently sitting next to someone working on a laptop, and a mate of mine, and he asked for help. And he had his touchpad on the non-inverted scrolling, the scrolling from the 2000s.
Oh!
Where you scroll, you move your fingers up, you scroll up.
Every now and then I'll encounter a device which doesn't have the option to do it the new way, because I got used to the new way so quickly. I know a lot of people didn't. The last place I encountered it actually on an Android tablet. I was trying to see how far I could get with an Android tablet as a developer machine. And you can connect a keyboard, you can connect a mouse. But that was one of the things. The mouse used the wrong direction scrolling, the old direction scrolling, and there was no option to change it. And I was like, well, no, I can't possibly use this.
It's a red flag for a psychopath, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, back to view transitions.
Yes, so in Safari on both iOS and desktop, and I think other browsers do this as well, is as you are doing the drag gesture to go back, it gives you a preview of the previous of the state you're going back to, like a screenshot.
Yes.
But the bad news is Safari, the browsers, they do this even for same document transitions.
Which is annoying if you have your own animation implemented.
Now you're onto something. Exactly. And in fact, Safari does it even for just like you click on a link with a hash, it's going to a different scroll position. Like they do it for this as well. So yeah, exactly. What happened? And the thing you see when you drag across is like a screenshot taken just before the navigation. So you're looking at your new state, you start dragging to go back to the old state, you see the old state, and you drag all the way across and you let go, and then that just does the navigation. It snaps back to the new state and does a lovely little web page transition into the old state, and it looks awful.
I mean, it seems easy to fix from Safari's point. If there is view transitions, don't do it.
Well, so this has been a problem before view transitions, right? Like this is any kind of state change.
Oh, true. Any custom, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the fix here is a property hasUAVisualTransition, which will appear on navigation event objects and pop state event objects. And it's basically telling you, look, the browser's already done it for you, so you might not want to do your own.
Oh, so my ability to implement navigations is being taken away from me rather than me signaling to the browser saying,
exactly,
I got this, let me do it.
Well, yeah.
That
maybe.
Seems the wrong way around.
I do hope in future that there is a way to say, look, no, I would actually like to do my own transition if you don't mind. But that's not the way it is now. But at least you can avoid the double transition.
Yes, it definitely is a solution to give a better user experience.
Yes.
As a developer, I'm a bit miffed.
Yeah, same. But hey, that's in Safari 18 and Chrome 118, so lucky you. But yes, it does solve a real problem. But yes, I hope it's not. Yeah. We've got transitions now. Woo! Can I use them? No. Browsers have got their own now, so it's pointless. Okay, never mind. Fair enough. But yes, there is a solution to that small problem. Next thing. All right. View transition class. Okay. So each view transition name on the page needs to be unique. Mm-hmm. All the elements that are involved in the transition, they need to have a unique name, because this is how the browser determines that the old thing is the same as the new thing. And it just does that because they have the same name. So if there's two things, it's like, well, no, which is it? So that doesn't work. But it means that when you're defining your animation, like you might have a group of cards and you give them view transition name card 1, card 2, card 3, or whatever. But that means in your animation, you have to say, okay, I want card 1 to animate like this. I want card 2 to animate like this. I want card 3 to animate like this. When usually they all animate the same. Like it's the same CSS to make that animation work. Mm-hmm. That's where view transition class comes in. So you can give everything a unique name, but then you can give them all the same class, which means whereas you would do : view transition group and then give it a name, instead you can give it dot and the class name that you've given it.
Right.
And this is not the same as the class name of the element. This is the view transition class, and you assign it that way. So they're similar to classes in HTML, but they're at a CSS level, but do roughly the same job.
Can I combine that with like nth child? If I have like a list of cards and I want every second one to go to the left and the odd ones to the left, the even ones to the right, that would work with this?
Yeah. So interestingly, you in a basic like card reordering thing, if you do your even cards do this, odd cards do that, you open yourself up to the problem of what if the class names are different in the new state to the old state, which is fun. But the solution there is the new state class names win.
Yeah.
That's it. So, which is actually interesting, because if you wanted to do your odd and even thing, it's like, well, do you want it to be odd and even from the end state or from the new state? Which is kind of fun, but yeah, it's all a solvable problem. But yes, you can use nth child. Just be aware that it's going to be nth child from the new state rather than the old state.
Yes, that's definitely important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that was in Chrome 125 and Safari 18.1 8.2, like, so soon, not out yet, but soon-ish. It's cool. Yeah. Now, here's a feature that I'm mentioning this for completeness, really. I think it's I don't know how much I care about this one.
Wow, you got me excited.
Hey, I'm not DevRel for it anymore. I don't have to.
That's true.
It's great, isn't it? I can be entirely honest. I was always entirely honest, I think. Right. It's common for view transitions to be different depending on where you're coming from and where you're going to. And so from your article page to your home page might be a different transition than from an article page to an article page.
That makes sense.
Sure. And also if it's a back button, you might have animations that are different from if it's not back, if it's like a forward or a link click or whatever. The way I've always solved this is just by putting a class on the HTML element dynamically.
Yeah.
And then I can give different things view transition names. I can give, different animations to the groups and the old and the new states, all of that sort of stuff. And then just when the animation is complete, I remove that class. Yay. But there's a feature to kind of do that for you. So when you call start view transition, you can pass in types, which are similar to classes. We keep running out of names for just like words you give us that come out at the other end of the API somewhere. And types, it just means you get a selector. I think it's like view transition, active view transition type, and you can use that as a pseudo class to hang the rest of your styles off.
Oh, okay.
To say, right, oh, if it's this type of transition, then I want, capture these different elements and animate it in this different way. And I guess the nice thing about it is it removes that pseudo class for you once the transition is complete.
I mean, these are always the things that I feel like when you build them yourselves, there's a weird code branch where then the class doesn't get removed and then everything gets in a jumble. So having this like baked in, done right is really valuable.
Yeah, and I do think actually there's if you're doing the class name thing yourself, I do think there's a race condition if another view transition comes in.
Oh, yeah.
But before the other one ends, and I think the timing that you get to remove the class name is too late. So yeah, types thing is like I would definitely use the types thing now instead of the class name thing. But whatever.
The amount of times I've had weird animations because if you press the back button twice, just slowly enough that the first animation has started, but not quick enough that so slow that it has also fully ended, and then you have like two overlapping animations, and like
exactly,
you have to implement a whole state machine and everything, and it's just that it is such a convenient thing to not have to do yourself anymore.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, small benefit, but it is a nice little feature, and that was Safari 1, Safari technical preview that's in. So
Safari 1?
Well, I got my words mixed up. It's like Chrome 1.25 and Safari technical preview. But yeah, so coming soon to Safari, but it's already shipped in Chrome. Right, this next one's a big one, I think. Chrome 1.26, this landed in Safari 18.2, which is the next version. That is cross-document view transitions. So like, you can do view transitions without JavaScript.
Oh.
We've wanted that, right?
Yeah. So this is like non-spa almost, like it's just like literally static sites. I can 11t, my 11t blog.
Exactly. Yeah, you can do it like entirely without JavaScript view transitions. The way it works is both pages need to be same origin right now. There might be ways of making it same sites, but they're not there yet. But yeah, two pages of the same origin. They both opt in via a CSS rule. It's at view transition, and it's a block, and in there you put navigation : auto. Ta-da!
Oh, I thought you put yes at view transition.
Yes, please.
And that's the opt-in.
As happened before in the web platform, like autocomplete. The autocomplete attribute accepts the values yes and no.
Not true, false, but yes.
No, not true, false. No, because true, false, and that's it's beautiful, isn't it? Because in the world of ARIA, you have ARIA visible, which is ARIA hidden. Actually, it's ARIA hidden, which is set to true or false, the string true or false, because it's an attribute. Mm-hmm. And then you've got like disabled, or you've got the hidden attribute in HTML, which is doesn't matter what the string value is. If you do hidden equals false, it gets hidden because it's the thing exists, so it's there. And then you've got autocomplete with yes, no values, which is, yes, beautiful. What a beautiful platform we have. What a beautiful platform we have.
It is. Wonderful.
I mean, I can kind of, the reason autocomplete did that is because it's a truthy default, which you can't express with a Boolean attribute. Anyway, this is a tangent. Cross-document view transitions, that's what everyone wants to hear about. So yes, so you've got the navigation auto, and that means like on navigations that were started within the page, so like link clicks, form submissions, and then also like JavaScript triggered navigations will be a candidate for a view transition, but also back and forward button. The things which aren't included is the reload button and URL modification, like URL bar stuff, even if it lands same origin.
That is genuinely exciting to me. Like that's actually something where I may sit down and throw it at my blog just for the lols, because it's also like, it's one of such a classic case of progressive enhancement, because, if a browser doesn't understand it, everything stays as it is.
Exactly.
Happy days. But if the browser does support it, look at my spinning page while you navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's on my to-do list to add it to my blog. I started working on it on a flight and then ran out of time and then never picked it up again. Like so many little hack projects. But yes, it's something I really want to do. So there's a rule that your navigation has to be fast. And that means 4 seconds in Chrome.
4 seconds is a lot of spinning, mate.
That is a lot. Exactly. Oh, no, your transition can be as slow as you want, I think.
Oh.
But it means that the new document needs to be there within 4 seconds.
There as in loaded. It doesn't need, not transition.
Ready to transition.
Right.
Which doesn't have to be.
4 seconds seems lenient. Well, does that mean like I'm on like 2G airplane Wi-Fi, that the transition will obviously not start until the document is ready? But if it doesn't get ready until 4 seconds, then it goes to good old streaming in?
Well, so here's the thing. So when it comes to this, it doesn't prevent streaming. So
No, but you wouldn't see it if you have a transition, right?
Yeah, you could. Because the new state is all like live, right? It's not just a screenshot. So your new state could be sort of rendering in, particularly things like images, which could be loading in.
I assumed that I would obviously keep the new content off. Wait, the transition starts before the new document is ready?
Well,
in a cross-document
define ready is really the...
DOM ready.
Okay, good definition, actually. Well done. So
there's an event for that.
There is an event for that. So no, it's not. So a couple of other features have arrived. So you can do link rel equals expect. And then you can href for a local element. So like, hash whatever to point at an element.
Like a sentinel that is you mark as, this is my marker for I'm ready?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, so this would basically allow you to be like, I need to go until here to know that my above the fold is fully renderable. Clever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like my main content area or something like that. And yes, and then, so in that tag, you also have blocking equals render.
Did you say that's a link tag?
Yes.
Does it have to be in the head?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know for sure. It would have to be discovered.
Because one thing that's always difficult with frameworks is head stuff. Not it's solvable, but just thinking out loud.
I guess in the body element, you're running race conditions, right? Like, so there's a possibility that that tag is not discovered by the time it knows it needs to wait for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you put that at the bottom of your document, you run a high risk of it not being. It's kind of pointless, isn't it? Because you would then need another tag to tell it to wait for that tag.
No. That I think, of course, I would put it as high up as possible. But if you run like your good old DIY static site generator that uses Preact, it's a lot easier to put something in the body than it is to put in the head.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. My guess would be by default, it's a race condition in the body. I don't know if they've put in some code to say, like, well, once the head is parsed, then that's it. I don't know which of those it is. It will be one of those, though, I bet. But you can also use blocking equals render on scripts and on style sheets as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, blocking render is a risky thing for performance, but like you say, sometimes it is key to a transition to wait for a particular element to be there, or wait for a particular script to have loaded or something like that. So that's possible. And you also get you get a page swap event on the old page just before it goes away, and a page reveal event on the new page just as it arrives. Because we already have page hide and page show, but they run at the wrong time, so they had to make their own new events. Page show in particular. Yeah, when do you think page show fires? Go on, take a guess.
Is this from the page lifecycle API?
Yes.
Or is it even from before that?
These page hide and page show came in around BF cache.
So page hide, page show is separate from visibility, right? Like just because a window is in the background or something, probably does not fire.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, page hide and page show is like you've navigated away from this.
Is it like when the document is actually about to be evicted from memory, like so long off the screen, but maybe still kept alive?
Oh, no, I don't. Do we have an event for that? I can't remember if we did in the end. I don't think we did.
I wonder if that would be probably lifecycle API.
Yeah, it's lifecycle.
You now need to like store some of your stuff in local storage if you want to keep it around or something.
The big issue here is the page show event, which like with BF cache, it fires at roughly the right time. So, you click back, and it brings the page out of BF cache, the page show event fires. Everyone's happy. If you do a forward navigation and it's not BF cache, it has to load it from the network, page show fires along with the onload event of the window. So that's all images have loaded, which I would argue the page has been showing for some time before that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, DOM ready would have arguably been
ages ago.
Better.
Oh, yeah, DOM ready would have been. Well, but still, just tell me when it's shown. Like that's
still not ideal, but better.
Yeah, what I would say, once the old page is not showing anymore and the new one has got a realm, I guess there's always that issue of, it can't just be when it's got a realm, because there needs to be enough JavaScript running for you to be able to listen to the event. Unless
you introduce something like, I guess you can't, with post message, there's actually like an implicit queue until an event listener is registered. Yeah.
You have to call start to get it. So the way it works is it's just before the first render.
Right.
Is this new page reveal event. Page swap is just before the last render, and that next render will be the final render of that page. And so this is where you can customize the transition with JavaScript. So you can when
you say just before the first render, like enough for me to still muck about with positioning.
Yep, that's exactly what it's
nice.
For.
So before the first layout.
And it's before the new state is captured in terms of the view transition.
Brilliant.
So you can use that time to go and add view transition name to particular things, to set up your view transition types, and you get information about the navigation. You get the previous navigation object and the current one, so you can go, oh, this was a navigation, this was a transition from my article page to my home page, so I'll do something in particular different because of that. So that's all there for you. So yeah, that's cross-document view transitions. And yes, there is a question of, can we do same site at some point, which would be useful for going from your thing.com to profile.thing.com or whatever.
But I guess cross-origin is out of the question?
Entirely cross-site would be out of the question, I think. Or at the very least, it would be a cut-down version, because you don't want it to be an avenue for sites to be sending data to each other.
I wonder if you could opt in via CORS or something. If I say hey, I'm cool to be transitioned in by domain lol.com.
It's been a while since I paged this into my brain, but that opting in is fine, and that's what would have to happen even for the same site cases. I think the worry is where it's not the sites agreeing to it that's the problem, it's the user agreeing to it that's the problem. So it's the privacy issue rather than security issue.
Oh, you can make things look, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's about transferring data about the user. They keep trying to shut down all of these avenues of having sites communicate that sort of stuff, and so just not wanting to introduce a new one of those.
Yes.
All right. So far, it's all been stuff that's actually shipped in Chrome, at least, and it's like in development in Safari, aside from the cross-origin stuff. But I wanted to talk, I had a little look around the CSS working group and about stuff that's kind of being worked on but hasn't kind of got to a full release yet. I'm going to start talking in things that have been developed the most through to things that have been developed the least, I think. So the one that is actually, I see an experimental implementation of this in Chrome, it's nested view transitions.
Oh, Lord.
When you have a view transition, you've given all of the things your view transition name, and that creates these view transition groups. Those view transition groups are all siblings of each other. So although your DOM is like a complex tree, the transition is flat. And that's pretty useful because it means you can like animate something going from one container or appearing to go from one container to another, even though the container is like overflow hidden or whatever. So that flat tree is pretty good because it's just not a problem anymore. It's entirely flat. But sometimes you don't want that. Like you want your transitioning thing to be inside another thing which is transitioning. And so, and particularly when you have clipping involved, or that you want the thing to be transitioning up and down, but the outside thing is rotating or something like that. And doing that as two.
Oh, so you want to like maintain like the relative positioning between elements sometimes, because by default currently that's all gone.
Exactly. Yes. So that's the feature. So it's basically you have view-transition-group in the same place you would do view transition name, and you give it the name of another. Your container would have view transition name container, and the thing inside it would have view transition group container. And then it knows, okay, so this view transition group is going to go inside that other view transition group.
Gotcha. It's about position and scale then, right? Like if I scale up the container, all the children get scaled up. If I spin the container, all the children inside get the same spin. But if I move the children, they do their movement, but with the group parent, the container being the origin rather than the page.
Yeah, so imagine you've got like a container which has a list of items within it. Those items are reordering themselves while the container moves from one side of the screen to the other.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that grouping would help there, especially if you've got like a particular easing on the outer container. You don't want to have to then add that into all of the children elements, but you would only, especially if it's the container has a very particular easing curve, whereas you want the things inside it to have a different easing curve. That becomes really difficult to do in the current model.
And I can nest that multiple levels.
Yes, you can.
So basically, with a view transition by default, all the hierarchy from DOM is gone because you just basically have some free floating screenshots.
Exactly.
And this kind of lets you rebuild a new hierarchy, which can be completely independent from the DOM hierarchy.
Exactly. And then you can give like the outer view transition group like overflow clip to regain some clipping.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
Dead powerful. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's definitely times I've not been able to use view transitions because that feature was missing. And then there's a series of like little feature ideas for. So I mentioned before that if you're reordering like a group of cards or something, you have to give each one like view transition name card 1, view transition name card 2. I mean, you probably wouldn't give them card 1, card 2. You would give them some form of ID which represents the data that's in that card, because it's not positional you care about. It's like, because you can reorder the position, but you care about it in terms of the content that's in it. Very much like key when you're doing key in React, right? So you're keying each element. But what folks are looking at is there a way we can do it without having to name each element manually? And so there's a few different proposals around this. One is
this the return of XPath?
Yeah, well, no. View transition name match dash element is one, and this says element identity defines what's the same before and after.
Identity as in ID?
No, as in equals equals equals.
Oh, wait, what? How would that work?
Well, cross document it doesn't.
For SPA it does though. I get you.
Yes.
if you take good care of your React elements, then yes, this could work very well.
You've hit upon one of the things that I worry about with this feature. It seems to me that the CSS working group are very excited about this because it just works. And what I've been trying to tell them is it just doesn't. Like, they understand that it doesn't work cross-document, right? No one's under that illusion.
Yeah.
But view transitions right now are page transitions because they are scoped to the whole document. That might not always be true, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's scoped to the whole document. You can only have one view transition happening at once, and yeah, the document is the scope. So they're page transitions. When I built my simple demos of view transitions, I hooked into the navigation API, which tells me when something's trying to do a navigation. I canceled the default, and I went and I did a fetch request to the page, the target page, if it was same origin, and I got the HTML, and I blattered it onto the page using inner HTML.
Yeah.
And that means match element would not work for me in that case.
No, exactly.
Because even though my heading in this particular example or my sidebar was being recreated from scratch, even if it was visually identical, it's a new element, so match element would not work for me. And then, but if I was using something like React, then there is a greater chance that match element would work, but I don't think most people know when it would work and when it wouldn't, because it's all the diffing algorithm, right? It's an optimization, whether it reuses the element or whether it doesn't. You get some control over it with the key prop, but sometimes it will seem from the outside that React has decided, no, I'm just going to recreate that element because it's not in one of those situations where I can reuse it.
Yeah, and with frameworks, you could even be in a world where in the current release, it happens to work. But in the next release, they have decided to do buffer swapping almost, like element swapping, where they prepare the next element that is replacing the old element, and
yes.
They look the same, they do the same, but they're not the same in terms of referential equality. It seems like a bit like a foot gun. Yeah, it feels a bit like it looks really convenient on paper, but it doesn't hold up in reality unless you handcraft both your DOM and your animations.
Yeah, so the original proposal was just to call this auto, and I'm glad they haven't, because I agree with you, and I have used the word foot gun in the CSS working group multiple times to trying to tell them that this is not a silver bullet, right? This is not the solution to all problems.
Yeah.
And I think they've been swayed by a lot of CodePen demos of rearranging a group of cards, randomizing a list, and it's like, I just want it to figure it out, and it's like, yeah, it does work in that case, but I don't think it scales to actual use cases. Those demos of reordering cards, I don't think they work in production as well as people think. And I know this because at Shopify, we couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
And so the reason we couldn't make it work is, we got so far with it, we had an interface where it was a filtering, and it would reorder a list. But the box that controlled the filtering slightly overlapped the list, which meant it's like, okay, so now that box that controls the filtering, we need to give that a view transition name so it can sit on top of the things moving around in the list.
Yeah, it has to be its own screenshot.
And then, right, okay, we solved that. But then the fact that it's not interactive during the animation became really apparent and became a bug. So what we really wanted was scoped view transitions. We really want a way to say, I want a view transition that is limited to this element on the page rather than being for the whole document. And then you can just have your little, your sorting, filtering UI overlaying all over the top. It's fine. Why not? Because the view transition is limited to the list.
It sounds a bit like the first step is being taken with a nested view transition almost, right? It's a similar pattern.
Well, the nested one is more about the grouping of the pseudo element groups, whereas this is taking that whole tree and putting it onto an element rather than on the HTML element.
Yeah.
No, but those two features would work together, for sure. And then in that case, I think match element becomes more interesting. But again, it's still a bit of a foot gun. I feel it's something people will go, oh, this will be handy, and then they'll use it and then find that their animation only kind of works sometimes, and then fall back to using view transition name because that's the reliable one.
Here's maybe a curveball. For the view transition name, where I give a DOM element a name, can I use the attribute function?
Yes. Now here, God, you're good at this, This is the next thing I wanted to talk about. So this is something else they're looking at, is being able to use the attribute function. So you can bring an ID or a whatever.
Well, the thing is, we are talking about handcrafted DOM. This would probably work fine. But in framework lands, the problem is you're not necessarily controlling the DOM creation and modification. But whenever you render lists in most frameworks, you often do set a key property so that the framework knows which elements correspond to each other.
But that doesn't fall down to a attribute.
No, but you could.
I would say it's like, well, you just do an inline style then and give it a view transition name. It's like, this is another feature where I'm like, cool, I'm glad you'll be able to do this. But I do not think it's as useful as people think it's going to be.
Well, at least it's a half decent escape hatch, I feel like. Because if I take infinite scroller off-the-shelf components,
yeah,
right, and I do not exactly control how these individual items are rendered to the DOM, but it turns out there is maybe a data attribute
yes.
on them, then being able to use the attribute function to link to the data attribute seems useful.
I like that. Yes. And I think exactly what you said is the right way I would go about it. So it's by having a special data attribute to control this, or some other attribute on a custom element, whatever. The thing that's being thrown around the CSS working group is using the ID attribute. So specifically, the idea that's coming from a couple of folks in the group is that view transition name auto will use the ID attribute if it's there. Otherwise, it will fall back to match element.
But that's not how IDs are used, right? Like if I go from one view to the next and I have like my list of albums and I click an album and on the next page it's about the album, the ID on one would be big as important main album cover, and the other one is a list item that probably wouldn't even have an ID.
Yeah, for that particular case, it doesn't work at all. But for things like header and sidebar, it might. I mean, I don't think people use IDs as that often anymore.
Yeah.
But it is a reasonable way to say, right, if two things have the same ID, it's fair. You have a reasonable confidence of saying they're the same.
I mean, that's true. Like if they have the same ID, they probably have the same identity. That's true. But I feel like why limit it to ID?
Yes, indeed.
With the attribute function, I could say ID or anything else.
What I don't like about this proposal, I think that my biggest issue with it is it means like if you transition name auto, it's like, oh, that's just going to do it all for me. I'll use that. But it's mixing in this match element behavior, which we've already decided between the two of us is a foot gun.
Yeah.
But you don't know that's what you're getting because it's kind of just hidden behind the word auto. And also one pattern we see on like big websites is this pattern where you click on a thing and it'll do an SPA navigation unless it knows that there's an update to the site, in which case it will do a full navigation to pick up the new version of the site, kind of almost in secret. It's a nice little thing where it doesn't have to show you, by the way, there's an update available, press here. It just kind of gives you the update automatically. And it's nice that you can have view transitions in an same document, but then you could have the same view transition cross document in that case. But this means if you're using auto and you test it, it seems to work because, I don't know, the idea is pretty good and the match element's working well. In that cross document case, it's going to all fall down because match element isn't going to work. And it's going to seem to kind of work because your things with IDs are going to work, but the rest is all going to behave weirdly. And it's going to be like, oh, that half worked. Great. That's the worst kind of debugging, right? Like it's, which have to find out which things didn't work properly and which ones did. It seems like a foot gun to me. So I don't like that. I like that match element exists, and I like that I could get the thing from an attribute. I don't know how often I would use those features personally. Maybe with scoped view transitions, match element a bit more, but we are nowhere near that yet. It's just a kind of, sketch right now. So I'm hoping we can block this like auto thing. Otherwise, we're going to have, I think we'll end up writing documentation saying, hey, view transition name auto's a thing, don't use it. It's rubbish. It's rubbish and confusing. Which would be sad, but there you go.
Yeah, I hope that if that is if it's not just you, but it's not, because I tend to agree. So it's at least the two of us. If there's some more people who agree with that sentiment, then maybe the working group might course correct. That'd be the hope. It would be really sad to see something launched that is a foot gun.
It would be sad to see something launched that's a foot gun. And unfortunately, I'm adding this note in after we recorded to let you know that Safari, in Safari 18.2, just went ahead and shipped view transition name auto, even though it was being actively disputed in the CSS working group. It's not great, but it is something that happened. Happy days. Anyway, back to the episode. I was looking around at other auto values in CSS, and I think some of them, like image height auto, has, given us aspect ratio on images recently.
I think the only time I ever type auto is margin 0 auto.
Right. Let's talk about that. I think that's badly named. Because
it is.
What does that mean?
Oh no, I've activated your tweet thread trap card.
Yes. I think it's... I think, seriously, if that feature was invented now, you would do margin 0, 1 FR to mean I want the margin to be a fraction of the remaining space.
Yeah, but that wasn't a thing. That came with Flex.
No,
that wasn't a thing. That was...
I realize that, but that's why I'm saying if we did it now. But... okay, let's say they're inventing it back in a day. What if it was margin 0, distribute? Like, name it something that describes what it does.
But I think auto was already a keyword. They were not going to invent... I think at that time, it was just like, just use one of the keywords we already have. We don't want to fix the parser.
Well, that's bad for the future, isn't it? So I don't know if that's...
I mean, that's how JavaScript was born. Come on, that's the whole origin story of the
I suppose.
web.
But yeah, so maybe that's the case. Maybe it was just not wanting to have extra words in there.
I put my money on that. This is just like auto is a keyword, and we're like just do the margins automatically, okay? Just do the thing.
Yeah. But it's only sometimes the thing you want, right? Anyway, yes, okay. I hope that all turns out okay, but it's, if it doesn't, then we can, it's down to DevRel people to just guide developers away from the foot guns. Whatever. It'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much... God, we've been talking long enough. There are a few more features, but they're smaller ones. So we can maybe revisit this as they become sort of more real proposals. But that's kind of where we're at. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think the biggest one is those scoped view transitions. Like for single page apps.
Yeah. Cross documents and then scoped. That's definitely something I'm going to play around with. I hope you will put loads of examples for each of these features into the notes, because that's something I want to click through.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, particularly the ones that have already shipped, like cross-document.
In case people are thinking, I'm just saying this, like I genuinely haven't looked at these things, and I will rely on Jake putting something in the podcast notes so I can learn about it.
Our ex-colleague Bramus is the one who wrote the cross-document view transitions guide, I guess. It's really good. I was able to lead on that to kind of double-check some of the content here as well. So I will link to that and a bunch of other CSS issues and stuff. So
nice.
Yeah, go and play with that. I think it's great to see that this stuff is still, like, it hasn't just shipped half a thing. It's done the thing of, like, minimum viable product, but it is being actively worked on in quite a significant way, which is great for the web.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I got. Should we go away now?
I mean, that was like an hour made almost. Like that was you got a lot. I think it's time to rest and digest.
I think so. All right then, mate. Nothing left to say except happy next time. Bye. Because view transitions are a nice, very visual feature. So what better place to discuss that on than on a pod? Now I'm going to try that. I fluffed that joke. Oh, that was good, wasn't it?
That was beautiful.
Oh, imagine how funny that would have been if I said it properly. Well, let's give it a go.